In this video, we will go over the dashboard page, one of the main pages in Ryskview. Welcome to the dashboard. The dashboard is a central hub for each user to see important data elements that are relevant to their job. The dashboard will reference the scan data page, POAM task queue, or other pages where the user can make changes that affect the values on the dashboard. Each tab at the top represents the various roles which a user may be assigned. There are 11 different tiles set into rows which can be used to customize the dashboard. Customizing the dashboard is as easy as unpinning the tiles. Or adding them from the bottom of the page. The order of the tiles will depend on the user's role. If the page is taking a long time to load, try unpinning some tiles. The less tiles are pinned, the faster the page will load. Let's look into the to-do list tile. The to-do list tile has multiple informational metrics listed to inform users of what actions to take to ensure all accurate and reliable data. Plan of actions and milestones is abbreviated as POAM throughout the Ryskview application and as listed below. The to-do list tile is available to all users but is especially relevant to the system administrator and ISSO roles. For these two roles, the to-do list tile will always appear in the top left corner. The metrics listed for these specific roles are past due vulnerabilities without a POAM, past due vulnerabilities with POAM, POAM SCD less than 30 days, POAMs ready for closure, not on recent scan, uncredentialed scans, unknown asset type, and system authorization. The goal of these metrics listed is to achieve and maintain the number 0 for each to-do task listed in this tile. Let's look at the different ways we can reach the goal in each of these metrics. Past due vulnerabilities without a POAM is an abbreviated label for past due vulnerabilities without a plan of action and milestone. This is the number of systems that have vulnerabilities that are past their due dates. Due dates are set by you or another user when creating a POAM. Clicking on the number will open a modal listing the specific systems that have overdue POAMs. You can drill down further by clicking on a specific system name to list the individual assets with overdue vulnerabilities. Clicking on a specific asset will open detailed information about the asset. In order to address the systems listed in this metric, you must navigate to the Scan Data dashboard and either patch the system so that the vulnerabilities no longer exist, or add the vulnerabilities to a POAM. The next metric listed is Past Due Vulnerabilities with POAM. This tells you the number of systems with POAMs that are past their due date or scheduled completion date. The scheduled completion date is set by you or another user when creating the POAM. Clicking on the number will open a new browser tab called the POAM task queue. The POAM task queue will list POAMs assigned to you and be filtered to display the POAMs that are past their scheduled completion dates. From the POAM task queue, the user can add a new milestone that will extend the scheduled completion date or move the POAM along the workflow. POAM SCD, or scheduled completion date less than 30 days, shows the number of POAMs due within the next 30 days. This metric is used to prioritize reviewing and updating any upcoming POAMs nearing their scheduled completion dates. Clicking the link will open a new browser tab called the POAM task queue. The POAM task queue will list POAMs assigned to you and be filtered to display the POAMs with a scheduled completion date coming up in the next 30 days. These POAMs can be updated by either adding a new milestone or move the POAM along the workflow. POAMs ready for closure, not on recent scan, shows the number of POAMs that have been remediated and can be closed. Clicking the link will open a new browser tab called the POAM task queue. The POAM task queue will list POAMs assigned to you and be filtered to display the POAMs ready for closure. You will see in the POAMs task queue that the vulnerable assets will show 0 assets. These POAMs should be closed through the normal workflow on this page. Before we discuss the next metric called uncredentialed scans, let's address what constructs a credentialed scan. A credentialed scan is a full assessment of the asset, whereas an uncredentialed scan is a partial assessment of the asset. It is important to have a credentialed scan to ensure reliable data. Uncredentialed scans shows the scans that are not properly credentialed. In terms of Ryskview, if the scans are uncredentialed, then Ryskview cannot validate that vulnerabilities were remediated. Clicking the link will open a modal listing the specific assets with uncredentialed scans. To lower the number of uncredentialed scans, you are advised to work closely with your scan tool administrator to update credentials. Note, some assets cannot have credentialed scans. These may include things like ICS devices, medical devices, or sometimes even printers or certain switches. There is an attribute within each asset that allows the user to indicate if scans on a specific asset require credentialed scans or not. By default, all assets are set to require credentialed scans indicated by this checked box. Assets that do not require credentialed scans will be excluded in the uncredentialed assets count on the to-do tile because there is nothing to do to fix them. Note, in order to see the last date the asset had a credentialed scan, you can go to Reports, Scan Data, Uncredentialed Scans, and filter or search for the specific system or assets. Unknown asset type indicates the number of assets that have not been categorized. Clicking the link will open a new browser tab with the Assets page, filtered for the specific assets that have not been categorized. From here, you can categorize the assets accordingly. The final metric listed is System Authorization. To showcase this metric, we have navigated to the ISSO role tab for this user. The System Authorization metric indicates the systems in a current authorization workflow and indicates that there are pending actions for you. For example, if the workflow is assigned to the ISSO, then the System Authorization metric will only show for the ISSO, but not for the system administrator or other user roles of the system because it is not assigned to them. Clicking the link will open a model with the system or systems, control framework, authorization type, and last modified date. Clicking on the system name will open a new browser window and navigate to the authorization workflow of the selected system. From here, you can review and/or update the authorization workflow. We've completed our look at the to-do list tile. Now we will take a look at some of the other tiles. These tiles utilize the risk score system in different ways. The risk score is a proprietary score measuring the risk level by threat and impact that incorporates many environmental and contextual elements. The risk scores are broken down into high, shown as red, moderate, shown as yellow, and low, shown as green risk. While the demarcation between severities can be changed and customized, the default value is anything below 2,000 is low risk, 2,000 to 4,000 is moderate risk, and above 4,000 is high risk. Environmental elements evaluated as part of the risk score include whether assets are publicly accessible to the worldwide internet, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability requirements, and asset type categorization, among other things. We see a few of the remaining tiles show a variety of charts and graphs. These are the Risk Severity Systems tile, the Risk Severity Assets tile, the Top 5 Riskiest Systems tile, the Top 10 Riskiest Assets tile, the Average Risk Systems tile, the Risk Severity Program Office tile, and the Average Risk Program Office tile. We will take a look at these tiles from the System Administrator's role tab. The Risk Severity Systems tile displays a pie chart showing the risk scores of the systems. Since we are looking at the system administrator, we are only seeing those systems that we are responsible for. Clicking on the pie chart will open a modal displaying the exact systems represented by the pie chart segment. For example, if you click on the red, the medium risk systems will be displayed. Alternatively, you can click on the table to get the same modal. You can drill into the modal by clicking on the specific system, and Ryskview will display all of the assets within that system. The Risk Severity Assets tile displays a pie chart showing the risk scores of the assets. Clicking on the pie chart will open a modal displaying the exact assets represented by the pie chart segment. For example, if you click on the red, the high-risk assets will be displayed. Alternatively, you can click on the table to get the same modal. You can drill into the modal by clicking on the specific asset, and Ryskview will display the specific information about that asset. Top 5 Riskiest Systems tile displays a bar chart indicating the 5 systems with the highest risk score. Clicking on a specific system in the bar chart will open a new tab and displays the system summary. Top 10 Riskiest Assets tile displays a vertical bar chart indicating the 10 assets with the highest risk score. Clicking on a specific system in the bar chart will open a modal with the specific information about the asset. In order to find all the vulnerabilities and POAMs for that asset, navigate to the Assets page from the menu bar and search for the asset. The rightmost columns can be expanded to show the specific vulnerabilities and POAMs. The Average Risk Systems tile displays a line chart showing the trending risk score of all of your systems for the last 2 months. This line is an average score of all the systems for which you have a role for. For example, if you are the system administrator of 3 systems, the line will represent the average risk score of all 3 systems and will fluctuate with the risk scores of the systems. The goal is to have this green and pretty consistent. Any significant fluctuation either up or down should be investigated. For the next 2 tiles, we will switch to the CIO role tab. The Risk Severity Program Office tile is a pie chart showing the risk scores of the program offices in Ryskview, for which you have that role. The Risk Severity Program Office tile is similar to the Risk Severity System tile in the way they display information. The Average Risk Program Office tile is a line chart displaying the trending risk score of all of your applicable program offices over a period of time. The Program Office Risk Score is an average of all the system risk scores within that program office. The x-axis represents time and the y-axis represents the average program office risk score. Each program office is represented by its own unique line. The line is an average score of all the systems in a single program office. For example, if you are a CIO of 3 program offices, there will be 3 lines, each representing the average risk score of the systems within each program office. This line should be pretty consistent. Any significant fluctuation, either up or down, should be investigated. As system administrators and ISSO's role is typically within a single program office, the Risk Severity Program Office and the Average Risk Program Office tiles are not available to system admins and ISSO. The tiles we just discussed all display risk scores. In order to lower the risk score, users can do several things. Remediate vulnerabilities not on a POAM. Remediate and/or close POAMs. Review assets in systems to ensure they are accurate and delete or request deletion of non-applicable assets. Fix uncredentialed scans to ensure patched or remediated vulnerabilities are closed and not included in risk score. The remaining group of tiles displays overall information on the assets, operating systems, and systems you have roles in. The System tile indicates some general metrics about the system for which you are responsible for, according to your role. The column headers indicate the number of total systems and high-risk systems. The tile includes the following metrics broken down by 3 categories: the General Information category, the System Compliance category, and the Security Controls category. The General Information category displays information about the authorization types of the systems. A and A stands for Assess and Authorize, which are systems that have their own RMF authorization. Baseline refers to the baseline system of a type ATO, while Deployment refers to the associated deployment systems that are part of a type authorization. The numbers in the high-risk column are hyperlinked. Clicking on one of these links will open a modal that provides the specific system names. Clicking the system name will display a new modal listing the high-risk assets in that system. Clicking on an asset will provide additional information about the asset itself. The System Compliance category displays information on the current compliance status for your systems. Approved indicates the percentage of systems that have a current ATO or authorization to operate. ATO expires in less than 60 days, indicates the systems for which the ATO will no longer be valid. Clicking the number value will open a new browser tab and filter the system page list for the systems with ATO expiring within 60 days. ATO expired displays the systems with ATOs that have already expired. Clicking on this value will open a new browser tab and filter the system page list for the systems with expired ATOs. Action needs to be taken on these systems in order to gain a new ATO for values in both ATO expires in less than 60 days, as well as ATO expired metrics. You may have a current ATO for your system, which, in that case, the ATO expiration field in the system's attributes needs to be updated. Authorizations in process indicates the systems that have an authorization workflow open within Ryskview. Clicking the value will open a model with the system or systems, control framework, authorization type, and last modified date. Clicking on the system name will open a new browser window and navigate to the authorization workflow of the selected system. While these authorizations may be in process, it does not imply that the authorization workflow is assigned to the logged-in user. Any authorization workflows that are assigned to you will be indicated by the System Authorization metric in the To-Do List tile. The Security Controls category displays information on your system security controls. The Ready for Validation displays the number of security controls that are ready for validation of the control assessment. Clicking on the value will display a modal with the system name, the control framework, such as 853, and the number of security controls waiting to be validated. Clicking on the system name will open a new browser tab and display the Security Controls Assessment tab of the selected system. From here, you can select the appropriate framework and filter for Ready for Validation. The Asset tile is an indicator of the various asset types or assets categorization. The column headers indicate the total number of assets and high-risk assets that you are responsible for, according to your role. The values in the high-risk column are hyperlinked. Clicking on a value will open a modal with the system names of the high-risk assets. Clicking on the system name will display the specific high-risk assets in a new modal. The goal is to have only low-risk assets. The bottom row of the Assets tile displays unknown or uncategorized assets represented as a dash. This metric is also displayed in the To-Do List tile mentioned earlier. The OS tile displays the operating systems of the assets. This shows the total and high-risk assets with the specified operating system. Similar actions can be taken to view the high-risk assets associated with the values in the high-risk column. In conclusion, the dashboard is comprised of multiple tiles that give insight into the vulnerabilities and risk of your assets, systems, and/or program offices. The To-Do tile shows you task items that can help mitigate risk on your systems, while the other tiles provide insight into your system based on risk score and other supporting metrics. For more information on the dashboard and other aspects of Ryskview, visit our knowledge base articles and videos at ryskview.com/knowledge-base.